Junior archivist Vex 427 had always found solace in the vast digital archives of the Galactic Historical Institute. The quiet hum of quantum servers and the soft glow of holographic displays were more comforting than the bustling social spaces preferred by other Selenarians. Their crystalline form reflected the azure light of the terminal as they sorted through restricted military records from the last century. It was during one of these routine cataloging sessions that Vex discovered something unusual: a corrupted data packet buried deep within files relating to the unified combat protocols. Most species considered such documents tedious, full of regulations about acceptable weapons yields and proper battle formations. But this fragment was different. It bore the distinctive encryption of the High Council's emergency session protocols. Vex's crystalline appendages trembled slightly as they initiated the restoration sequence. They shouldn't have had access to this level of classified information, but their species' natural affinity for data manipulation made such barriers more suggestion than rule. As the file reconstructed itself, Vex realized they were watching footage from the infamous Centauri exercise, humanity's first and only participation in organized galactic warfare. The holographic display sprang to life, showing a standard military exercise between the Arcturian Defense Fleet and the Proximan Expeditionary Force. Everything appeared to follow protocol. Ships arranged in ceremonial formations, weapon systems calibrated to regulation levels, medical vessels stationed at prescribed coordinates. The human contingent, 3 retrofitted cargo ships, maintained their designated observer position at the edge of the engagement zone. Then something went wrong. A rogue asteroid, missed by both fleets' detection systems, collided with an Arcturian medical frigate. The ship's containment fields failed, exposing hundreds of wounded to hard vacuum. According to protocol, the exercise should have been immediately suspended and rescue operations initiated through proper channels. The humans didn't wait for authorization. Vex watched in fascination as the human ships broke formation. Their cargo vessels, originally cleared only for transport and observation, suddenly demonstrated capabilities that hadn't appeared in any registration documents. Magnetic loading cranes transformed into makeshift tractor beams. Mining lasers, supposedly for asteroid harvesting, precisely cut through debris to create access corridors. Hull-mounted construction scaffolding extended like mechanical tentacles, creating improvised docking collars that could attach to any ship design. The footage showed human crews in environment suits literally jumping across space between vessels, using handheld tools in ways their designers had never intended. They rigged emergency containment fields from salvage equipment and converted food preservation systems into temporary life support units. Every piece of technology they carried seemed to serve 3 or 4 purposes beyond its original function. More remarkable than their technical improvisation was their complete disregard for chain of command. The humans didn't wait for orders or committee approval. They didn't consult the proper authorities or file the required action plans. They simply saw a problem and acted, coordinating through informal channels and trusting each other's judgment. The rest of the footage showed the aftermath. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos as species argued about the humans' actions. Yes, they had saved lives, but they had also demonstrated that every piece of seemingly harmless civilian equipment they carried could be repurposed into something else. Yes, they had prevented a tragedy, but they had done so by ignoring centuries of carefully established protocols. Vex fast-forwarded through hours of debate footage until they reached the final decision. The Council's ruling was unanimous. Humanity would be banned from participating in any future military exercises or standardized conflicts. The official reason cited was persistent protocol violations and unsafe improvisation of civilian equipment. But as Vex studied the private notes and classified addenda, they found something else. Hidden beneath the bureaucratic language was a deeper concern. Humanity's actions had inspired others. In the months following the Centauri exercise, the Council recorded a 300% increase in protocol violations during military exercises. Other species had begun to question whether strict adherence to regulations was more important than achieving objectives. Some had even started exploring alternative applications of their own technology. The humans hadn't just broken the rules, they had made others wonder why the rules existed in the first place. Vex saved their findings to a secure partition and began composing a message to their superior. This information needed proper review and classification, but as they worked, they couldn't help but simulate how their own natural abilities might be applied differently. After all, if humans could reimagine the purpose of simple cargo equipment, what else might be possible? They quickly dismissed such thoughts. That kind of thinking was precisely what the Council had feared. Vex was an archivist, and archivists followed protocols. Still, they found themselves making a private copy of the footage. For academic purposes, of course. Purely academic. Commander Sarah Chen had read the Unified Combat Protocols 16 times since receiving this assignment. The datapad in her quarters displayed the document's 10,000th page, full of regulations about proper formation spacing and approved communication frequencies. She found the whole thing absurd, like trying to turn war into a choreographed dance. "Captain to the bridge," the ship's AI announced, interrupting her studies. "Approaching designated observation coordinates." The bridge of the UES Resourceful didn't look like a warship's command center. Technically, it wasn't. The vessel had been a deep space mining platform before its retrofit for this mission. Mining sensors replaced traditional tactical arrays. Construction drones stood in for fighter squadrons. The Galactic Council had approved this loadout precisely because it was non-military. Chen smiled at the thought. "Status report," she ordered, settling into the command chair. "Arcturian and Proximant fleets are in position." Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the sensor station. "They're beginning their exercise scenario. We're maintaining observation distance as required." Through the main viewport, Chen watched the two alien fleets arrange themselves in perfect geometric patterns. Energy weapons fired at precisely calculated intervals. Ships maneuvered through predetermined vectors. It looked more like a ballet than a battle. "Ma'am," Rodriguez called out, "I'm picking up something odd at bearing 047. Mass reading doesn't match any known ship type. Classification: can't get a clean read. It's on a collision course with..." Oh no. Chen saw it too. The unidentified object, likely a rogue asteroid with an unusual mineral composition, was headed straight for an Arcturian medical frigate. The alien vessel, focused on maintaining its prescribed position in formation, hadn't noticed the threat. Protocol dictated that observers should file an emergency notification through proper channels. The notification would be reviewed, classified, and forwarded to the appropriate command structure. Standard response time: 30 minutes. The asteroid would impact in less than 5. "Sound general quarters," Chen ordered. "All hands to emergency stations." "Ma'am, we're not authorized to." "The protocol writers aren't out here, Lieutenant. We are." "Engineering." "Here, Commander." Chief Engineer Patel's voice came through. "Remember that trick you used to clear that ice field in the Kuiper Belt? The one that wasn't exactly in the manual?" A pause. "The gravity slinger. But that's not. Can you do it?" Another pause. "Give me 2 minutes to reconfigure the mineral extractors. Jackson, get me all power to the magnetic coils." Chen turned to her communications officer. "Contact the other human ships. Tell them to prep their construction drones. We're about to get creative." What followed was a symphony of improvisation. The Resourceful's mineral extractors, designed to create controlled gravitational fields for mining operations, transformed into a makeshift deflector array. Construction drones, meant for assembling orbital platforms, locked their tractor beams onto fragments of the asteroid as it began to break apart under the gravitational stress. "Arcturian vessel, this is UES Resourceful," Chen broadcast. "Adjust course -15 degrees immediately. This is not a protocol notification. Repeat. Move your ship now." The Arcturian commander's translated response crackled through the bridge speakers. "Human vessel, You are violating observation protocols. Return to your designated coordinates and submit proper documentation for any concerns. For crying out loud, Chen muttered. Rodriguez, show them. The sensor officer transmitted their readings. Finally, the Arcturian ship began to turn, too slowly. The asteroid was breaking up, but chunks were still going to hit. Engineering. We need more power to those coils. They're at 150% already. Patel shouted back. Any more and they'll burn out. Better than watching people die because we followed protocol. Do it. The mineral extractors screamed as they were pushed far beyond design specifications. Most of the asteroid fragments were deflected, but some still struck the Arcturian vessel. Containment fields failed. Hull breaches exposed multiple decks. Launch rescue drones, Chen ordered. All engineers with vacuum certification. Suit up. Medical, prep for casualties. Ma'am, her XO interrupted. Regulations strictly prohibit direct intervention in. Note your objection in the log, XO. Then help me save these people. The next hours were controlled chaos. Human crews improvised patches and seals, repurposed equipment into emergency medical gear, and generally ignored every protocol in the book. Chen lost count of how many regulations they violated. The final casualty count. 0. The final protocol violation count. 372. The debriefing lasted for days. Chen sat through endless sessions with council representatives, explaining every decision, every violation, every improvisation. She received citations for endangering an observation mission, unauthorized modification of civilian equipment, violation of chain of command, and dozens of other infractions. She also received a private message from the Arcturian Medical Frigate's commander. It contained no words, just a list. The names of crew members who survived, because humans cared more about saving lives than following protocols. When the Council announced humanity's ban from future military exercises, Chen wasn't surprised. She was in her quarters, reading the protocols again. This time, she was writing her own addendum. A guide for future human commanders on how to appear to follow the rules while keeping their crews ready for the unexpected. After all, the galaxy was vast and full of surprises. Someone needed to be ready to handle them, protocols or not. High Counselor Zaxvin of the Arcturian hierarchy stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, their bioluminescent patterns flickering with barely contained agitation. The Council Chamber's anti-gravity platforms held representatives from 200 species, all waiting to debate what many were calling the human question. The facts are undeniable, Zaxvin's translator projected. Since the Centauri exercise incident, we have recorded unprecedented levels of protocol violations across all member species. The humans' actions have triggered what our behavioral analysts term a cascade of innovative thinking. This cannot be allowed to continue. From their platform, Ambassador Elena Martinez of Earth watched the proceedings with carefully maintained diplomatic composure. Inside, she was fighting back a smile. The latest report on her datapad showed exactly what had the Council so worried. Last week, a Proximan cargo fleet had refused to wait for authorized repair crews when their navigation systems failed. Instead, they'd adapted communication arrays into makeshift stellar compasses, citing the human precedent for creative problem-solving in emergency situations. They'd saved their cargo and crews, but more importantly, they'd thought outside the standard response protocols. 3 days ago, a Selenarian research vessel had modified their sensor equipment to detect an approaching solar storm, despite the equipment being officially uncertified for meteorological observations. They'd broadcast warnings to nearby ships using unauthorized frequencies. When questioned, the captain had simply asked, "What would the humans do?" The danger is not merely in the violations themselves, Zaxvin continued. It is in the philosophical contamination. Species are beginning to question protocols that have maintained order for millennia. They are experimenting. Ambassador Martinez remembered her first meeting with the Arcturian representative shortly after the incident. Zaxvin had privately admitted that their own medical corps had begun running simulations on alternative uses for standard equipment. Just in case, they'd said, their patterns showing embarrassment. Though naturally, we would never actually implement such improvisations. The Proximan delegate rose next, their crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. Perhaps we should consider that the humans have exposed flaws in our systems. The protocols were designed to maintain order, yes, but at what cost? When the Arcturian medical frigate was in danger, the humans' disregard for protocol saved lives. At the cost of predictability, the Regulan representative's tentacles writhed in agitation. If we cannot rely on standardized responses, how can we maintain civilization? Already, our youngest generation shows disturbing signs of independent problem-solving. They ask why instead of following directions. Martinez consulted her notes. Regulus had recently dealt with a group of engineering students who'd created unauthorized modifications to their public transportation system, making it 30% more efficient, but completely outside of approved specifications. The students had been celebrated by the public before being officially reprimanded. The debate continued for hours. Species after species reported similar incidents of innovative thinking, unauthorized modifications, and creative problem-solving. Some presented these as warnings, others as encouraging signs of progress. Through it all, Martins documented every case where humanity's example had sparked a change. A Centaurian philosopher had written a controversial paper titled The Human Paradigm: Evolution Through Improvisation. It had been officially banned and had become the most read scientific publication in 3 sectors. The Draconians, traditionally the most militant species in the Council, had begun incorporating tactical flexibility exercises into their military training. When questioned, they claimed it was to better defend against human-like thinking. Their combat effectiveness had increased by 40%. Even the Arcturians, while publicly condemning human influences, had quietly established a theoretical innovation division to study alternative applications of existing technology. It was officially for threat analysis purposes only. Finally, the Council reached its decision. Humanity would be banned from all standardized military exercises and operations. The official reason would cite protocol violations and safety concerns. The classified addendum would detail the real concern: humanity's tendency to inspire other species to think differently. As Martinez prepared to transmit the news to Earth, she received a private message from an anonymous council staffer. Attached was a comprehensive list of every human-inspired incident recorded in council space, along with analysis of the positive outcomes that official reports had overlooked. The message contained only one line of text: some of us believe the protocols need to change. Later that evening, in her private quarters, Martinez drafted 2 reports. The first, official report, detailed the diplomatic setback of humanity's military van. The second, sent through secure channels to select human colonies, documented the real impact of the Centauri exercise, a galaxy-wide awakening to the power of human-style adaptive thinking. The humans hadn't just broken protocol. They had demonstrated that breaking protocol could lead to better solutions. That idea was spreading, not through force or politics, but through example. Species that had followed rigid protocols for millennia were beginning to ask, what if? And once asked, that question couldn't be unasked. Martinez added a personal note to her unofficial report. They didn't ban us because we're dangerous. They banned us because we show others how to be dangerous. And it's too late to stop it. Dr. Katil Serene had spent 20 cycles studying human technology, and it still gave her headaches. The laboratory deep within the Draconian military analysis complex was filled with holograms showing the UES Resourceful's modifications during the Centauri exercise. Each display highlighted what her colleagues called impossible adaptations. The problem, she explained to the gathered military observers, her scaled hands gesturing at the displays, is that we've been asking the wrong question. We keep asking, how did they modify their equipment? When we should be asking, why do they design their equipment to be modifiable in the first place? The hologram zoomed in on a human mining laser. Standard analysis had initially cleared it as a civilian tool, incapable of military application. Yet during the crisis, the crew had reconfigured it into a precision cutting tool capable of surgical accuracy. Look at the basic design, Cattell continued. Every component is modular. Every system has redundancies. Even their safety protocols are designed to be overridden in multiple ways. It's as if they build everything expecting it to be used for something else. Admiral Vitor, his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed the data, raised an objection. But surely this makes their equipment less efficient. Our systems are optimized for specific functions, achieving maximum performance through specialization. Till brought up another hologram, this one showing the internal schematics of a human construction drone. That's exactly what makes human technology so fascinating. They deliberately sacrifice peak efficiency for adaptability. Their devices operate at maybe 70% of what our equivalent specialized tools can achieve, but they can perform dozens of different functions instead of just one. The assembled analysts watched as she demonstrated how the drone's various systems could be reconfigured. The welding array could become a cutting tool. The magnetic grapples could generate containment fields. The navigation system could be repurposed into a short-range scanner. But here's what's truly remarkable, Hill said, her scales shifting color with excitement. They build these capabilities in without knowing what they'll need them for. Human engineers actually have a term for it. They call it future-proofing. She pulled up footage from the incident, showing human crews making modifications on the fly. Watch how quickly they adapt. There's no hesitation, no lengthy analysis. They see a problem and immediately start considering how their available tools could be recombined to solve it. Surely this is inefficient, one of the younger analysts objected. The energy expenditure alone is considerably higher than our methods. Yes, Cattell interrupted. But that's not the point. Humans don't optimize for efficiency. They optimize for possibility. She brought up a new hologram, showing the incident from multiple angles. Look at how they work together. No formal protocols, minimal hierarchy. Each crew member is expected to understand their tools well enough to improvise. They don't just train to use equipment. They train to understand how it works. Admiral Vitor's cybernetic eye narrowed. This makes them unpredictable. Exactly. Cattell's scales flickered with patterns of academic excitement. And here's what's even more fascinating. They're getting better at it. Every crisis, every challenge, teaches them new ways to adapt their technology. They're not just solving problems. They're learning how to solve problems faster. She pulled up comparative analysis charts. In the first few minutes of the crisis, the human crews took approximately 45 seconds to implement each improvised solution. By the end of the incident, they were doing it in under 15. They were literally getting better at breaking protocols while breaking protocols. The Admiral's organic eye widened. Are you suggesting they were practicing? In a way, yes. Every emergency is a training exercise for the next emergency. Even their failures teach them new possibilities. Till brought up one final hologram, showing the aftermath of the incident. Look at their repair logs. They didn't just fix what was broken. They modified their equipment to make similar adaptations easier next time. She faced the assembled analysts directly. This is why the Council's ban was ultimately futile. We can keep humans out of our military exercises, but we can't stop them from turning every challenge into an opportunity to innovate. More importantly, we can't stop other species from noticing how effective their approach is. A junior analyst raised their appendage. But how do we defend against such unpredictability? Cattell's scales shifted to a pattern indicating amusement. That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes humans so fascinating. We see their adaptability as a threat to be defended against. They see our rigid protocols as a limitation to be overcome. And the more we try to constrain them with rules and regulations, the more options we give them to think creatively. Admiral Vitor finished, his cybernetic eye dimming in contemplation. Precisely. We've spent centuries perfecting our protocols, optimizing our responses, specializing our technology. Humans look at all of that and ask, what else can it do? Till gestured at the room full of analysis data. We've been studying them to learn their weaknesses. Perhaps we should be studying them to learn their strengths. As the briefing concluded, Till noticed several analysts surreptitiously examining their own equipment with newfound curiosity. She made a note in her personal log. Hypothesis confirmed. Human innovative thinking appears to be contagious, even through second-hand observation. Further study required. Unofficial channels only. 5 years after the Centauri exercise incident, first speaker Raxna of the Galactic Council stood in the ancient Hall of Records. The massive quantum crystal archive towered before them, containing the accumulated knowledge of 200 species across 50,000 years. Their guards waited outside. This consultation was too sensitive for witnesses. Display final analysis. Project Human Impact, Raxna commanded. The crystal matrices flickered to life, projecting a cascade of data. Statistics, incidents, trends, and predictions filled the air around them. The results were undeniable, and they were terrifying. Species that had never deviated from established protocols for millennia were now regularly filing emergency innovation permits. The Selenarians had established an entire division dedicated to theoretical applications of existing technology. The Proximan fleet had reorganized its training programs to include what they carefully termed adaptive response scenarios. But it went deeper than that. The latest generation of species across the galaxy was asking questions that had never been asked before. Why did protocols exist? Could they be improved? What else was possible? Raxna accessed a secure file, one hidden even from most council members. It contained the true reason for humanity's ban from galactic military exercises. Not because they were dangerous, though they certainly were, but because they represented something far more threatening. The power of example. The file opened with footage from a school on a draconian colony world. Young students were presented with a standard engineering problem: optimize energy flow through a power distribution network. For 10,000 years, students had solved this by applying the established protocols. These students did something different. They questioned the basic assumptions of the problem itself. Why did power need to flow in one direction? What if the grid could adapt to demand? Their solution violated 16 different protocols and improved efficiency by 200%. When asked what inspired their approach, they cited news reports about the human response during the Centauri exercise. Another recording showed a Centaurian medical team dealing with an outbreak of a mutations-prone pathogen. Standard protocol required quarantine and waiting for approved treatment methods. Instead, the team modified their medical equipment on the fly, creating an adaptive treatment system that evolved alongside the pathogen. They saved thousands of lives and were officially reprimanded for protocol violations. In their defense, they simply stated, "We asked ourselves what humans would do." The most disturbing report came from the Arcturian Military Academy. Cadets were now regularly failing standard response drills, not because they couldn't follow protocols, but because they kept finding better solutions that violated them. The Academy's commandant had quietly begun modifying the curriculum to include what they termed creative tactical thinking. Raxna accessed their private analysis terminal, adding new data to the projection. The patterns were clear. In the 5 years since the human ban, protocol violations had increased by 500%, but catastrophic incidents had decreased by 70%. Emergency response effectiveness had improved across all member species. Innovation rates were at their highest point in recorded history. The humans had done more than demonstrate new ways to use technology. They had shown that the impossible was only impossible until someone decided to try anyway. They had infected the galaxy with a dangerous idea. Rules were guidelines, not barriers. A message notification blinked in Raxna's field of view. The council was requesting their presence for an emergency session. A Regulan science vessel had apparently made unauthorized modifications to their quantum drive, achieving faster-than-light travel using methods that technically violated several fundamental laws of physics. The ship's captain's report contained a phrase that was becoming disturbingly common in council space. We took inspiration from human methodologies. Raxana closed the archives, their mind made up. They would recommend maintaining humanity's ban from military exercises, not because it would stop human influence, but because it would maintain the illusion of control the Council needed. The truth was, it was already too late. The humans had never needed to conquer the galaxy or force their ways upon others. They had done something far more effective. They had shown what was possible. Their greatest weapon wasn't their adaptability or their creativity. It was their ability to inspire others to be adaptable and creative. As they headed to the council chamber, Raxana composed 2 messages. The first, to the council, recommended strengthening protocols and increasing oversight of member species. The second, sent through private channels to their own research division, contained only 4 words: watch what humans do. Because in the end, that was humanity's true impact on the galaxy. They hadn't just broken the rules, they had made breaking rules imaginable. And once a mind could imagine breaking rules to find better solutions, no protocol could constrain it again. The humans had been banned from participating in galactic warfare because they were too dangerous. But their most dangerous weapon had nothing to do with technology or tactics. Their most dangerous weapon was hope. The hope they gave to others that there was always another way, always another solution, always another possibility. And that kind of weapon couldn't be banned. It could only spread.